Hey everybody, I am AR Mar, and what I watched today is Book 2, Chapter 5 of Avatar The Last Airbender, Avatar Day. We start right off with a Fire Nation patrol attacking Aang and company's camp. Our main characters retreat, delayed slightly by Aang retrieving his glider and Katara having to retrieve her waterbending scrolls. As they're escaping, Sokka realizes a boomerang is left behind, leading to a line that genuinely made me laugh. Oh, so there's time for your scrolls and his staff, but no time for my boomerang? That's correct, was Katara's response, and I just love that, glib little, yes, your boomerang is less important than my scrolls and his glider. But emotionally, not really. I mean, Sokka spends the entire rest of the episode going, what's my identity? I was Boomerang Guy! Which, admittedly, is a little silly, but it adds some good comedy to what's pretty much a funny episode in general. They learn about Avatar Day while buying some produce from an Earth Nation citizen and head right to the village having it because, well, any reason to see a celebration of the Avatar. And as this festival starts, we see giant floats of two of his past lives, Kyoshi and Roku, and even one of him currently, which are promptly set fire as people start chanting "Down with the Avatar." Which really, you can see the shock in Aang's face going, it's like, wait, these people don't love me? Great moment with that. The next thing we see is, Zuko acting as a bit of a bandit, stealing from people, stealing food for him and Iroh. And it's not so bad so far at this point in the episode. I mean, he's kind of just stealing to survive. I can sort of forgive him for it, even though he's being a bit of a jerk. And then we go right back to the village and find out that their Avatar Day is commemorating a day 370 years ago where they claim that Avatar Kyoshi murdered their great leader who was leading them to prosperity, and how their society has declined since the loss of their great and beloved leader. And the rest of the episode is mostly Katara and Sokka finding evidence that says that Kyoshi couldn't have murdered the guy. Her feet were too big for the footprint left behind. The temple she supposedly was in before she murdered him wasn't built till after the event. And it's kind of fun to see them finding this evidence both in the village and on the nearby island of Kyoshi to, try and exonerate Aang's past life. I mean, really, trying to solve a crime 370 years past is hard enough. But because it was the Avatar, at least some of these artifacts survived. We find out some cool facts, like Kyoshi apparently had some really big feet, which I find is awesome, because it's a cool little fact about her. It's like, yeah, she had big feet, so what? And between this, we have a couple more scenes of Zuko stealing from people, including stealing a whole lot of gold from a merchant, and as far as we know, this merchant has committed no crime. It's not like a lot of shows where they try to show the merchant being a jerk first or being some money-grubbing ass. It's really just Zuko dropping in, stealing the money, and then using it to buy stuff for him and Iroh, trying to regain some of the comfort he had before on his ship. Regain some of that status he's lost. When they visit the island of Kyoshi, we see Foaming at the Mouth guy again from their first visit. So I love that callback. That's a really hilarious little moment, having him freaking out and then suddenly calming down when they're like, sorry, Aang couldn't be with us today. And I really like that Sokka asks after Suki. It's a really cute little moment where he sees the Kyoshi warrior's little training hut and he asks about her. And the mirror tells him, oh, she left to fight in the war. Which I really love, because it's kind of it's him acknowledging that, yeah, he remembers Suki. He's still thinking about her. And I think I've said before, they're so far, I like them as a couple. I know they're both really young, but among the characters of the show, I like him with Suki way more than I liked him with Yue. And then we go right back to Aang being in jail, and him and the prisoners are just sitting there chatting, being really nice, and they're giving him dating advice. And I just love it, because it both speaks to not judging people by their looks. I mean, these guys are prisoners, sure. They have tattoos, they all look menacing, but they're being really nice. And it also speaks to Aang's ability to, bring out the best in people around him and make friends. Though Fire Nation people seem to be a bit of a exception, but we'll let that go. It also, we do find out that this village has a bit of a kangaroo court system, so it's quite likely that some of these prisoners aren't really bad criminals so much as the local chancellor or whatever went, you look bad. Jail for you, your crime is looking bad. Or some weirdness like that. Like, this guy, every time we see him in the episode, he's being a bit of a dick. And when, like, Katara and Sokka come back for all their evidence, he goes, our courts don't work on evidence. I say what happened, you say what you think happened, and then I decide who is right. Basically, like I said, it's a kangaroo court. He's holding a court so he can say it's justice. But really, it's whatever he says. Because he's the leader, and he knows. Which, really, freaking hilarious. Iroh confronts Zuko about the thievery of what Iroh suspects at this point. And Zuko basically after that says, sorry old man, you're holding me back, and leaves. And honestly, I'm going to miss Uncle Iroh interacting with Zuko. Like, I kind of want them to get back together right away because Zuko without Iroh just gets kind of dour and annoying, really. But Iroh is there to, lighten him up and teach him and provide that wisdom that Zuko is obviously sorely lacking. During the trial, Katara tries to dress Aang and Kyoshi's stuff, hoping it'll trigger something in him, like some memories or whatnot, and it doesn't look like it's working at first. Then it works big time, and Kyoshi herself tells us exactly what happened. She admits right out that she killed the tyrant. But she says, he was a tyrant. He was expanding his army and conquering the land at a rapid pace. And she wanted to protect what was then just the village of Kyoshi on a peninsula. To stop his army from invading her home, Kyoshi used the Avatar power to separate the island from the mainland, to separate the peninsula, making it into the island of Kyoshi. And that's why, earlier they showed us a tapestry celebrating Kyoshi Day, the day that she founded the... at the time we think they're just talking about founding the village on the island, but it turns out, no, she created the island on that day. Which really is just an impressive, display of an Avatar's strength, and teaches us a bit more of the history of this world, which, as I've said before, I love hearing about the history of this world. It is so rich. And, after this, obviously, the village is like, yep, you're totally guilty, destroy him, kind of ignoring the whole, your leader was a tyrant, not the kind, beautiful man you think he was. I can kind of see it from their point, though, because, to them, he was expanding their glory, he was bringing the village resources, all this other stuff, and while no one's that was alive back during when he was doing all this, they've been fed all their lives these stories about how he was a great man who made their nation great and was taken from them. I mean, this is a yearly celebration they have talking about how the Avatar evilly destroyed their great leader. So I can see how they're having trouble swallowing it. Aang is sentenced to boil in oil, which is then quickly commuted to community service as the men who attacked him and the rest in the first scene show up to claim the village in the name of the Fire Lord. We get a really fun fight scene which would take too long to describe in much detail, but had a great moment that once again made me laugh hard as Sokka gets his boomerang back and exclaims, "Boomerang, you do always come back!" Even thinking about that makes me laugh again because, like I said earlier, Sokka had so much anxiety over losing his boomerang for the whole episode, basically seeming to think that it was his whole identity, that it was kind of fun to see him, getting it back and going, Boomy! Well, boomerang, you know what I mean. Anyway, that was what I watched today, and I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you next time.